In Brazil, authorities prepare for President-elect Luiz Inácio da Silva's inauguration on Sunday. Delegations from 120 countries, including 17 heads of states and government, will attend the historic event. In the United States, the powerful winter storm sweeping across the country has left more than 60 dead and thousands of homes without power. And in Russia, President Vladimir Putin signed Moscow's decree in response to the cap on Russian oil prices imposed by the G7, the EU, and Australia. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news, and we do so in Ecuador. Violent deaths increased during Christmas Eve, with 24 murders in the last few weeks. According to local media, most of the homicides occur in the city of Guayaquil. The murders follow the end of the state of emergency, decreed on December 15th, in the provinces of Guayas, Esmeraldas, and Santo Domingo de los Tachilas, a measure adopted after several bomb attacks in those territories in November. Ecuador is also experiencing an escalation of violence, with the homicide rate rising to more than 20 in 100,000 inhabitants this year. In Chile, the authorities of the Atacama region declare an animal health alert due to the presence of bird flu. The disease is also present in other northern areas of the country. So far, 50 birds have been found dead in Atacama, although not all were affected by the H1N5 virus. The results of a dozen laboratory tests are awaited. The presence of the disease has already been confirmed in the region of Arica, Parinacota, Tarapacá, and Antofagasta, and the authorities do not rule out the possibility that it will continue to spread towards the center and south of the country. For now, the virus mainly attacks migratory wild birds, especially pelicans, gulls, and boobies. Despite the risk of transmission to humans is very low, the population was alerted to avoid contact with sick or dead birds and to immediately notify the authorities. In Brazil, delegations from 120 countries, including 17 heads of states and government, will attend the inauguration ceremony of President-elect Luiz Inácio da Silva, scheduled for January 1st. The press team of the incoming Brazilian president indicated that the presidential inauguration will bring to the country almost 3 times more high-level foreign delegations than those who came in 2019 to the inauguration of the outgoing Jair Bolsonaro. At least 53 foreign government, ministers, and ambassadors. The day before, Lula called for peace and tranquility in the country after a terrorist threat by a Bolsonaro supporter who tried to detonate a tanker truck near the international airport of Brasilia. According to the National Institute of Statistics and Census in Argentina, economic activity grew by 4.5% year-on-year during October, although it showed a drop in the intermonthly comparison. Let's see in the following report what the experts say on the possibility of sustaining the reactivation of the economy in the South American country for the next year.
For economist Ernesto Matos, it is essential to look at what is happening in the world to analyze the possible scenarios that could occur in Argentina.
The world economy, mainly during the year 2023, is expected to see a rise in interest rates in at least central countries. In this case, the US and Europe. The difference is that the US, in addition to raising its interest rate, has implemented a policy to lower inflation that has to do with the transfer of subsidies. In this case, many of the North American companies linked to the metal, mechanic, and steel industries are receiving large amounts of subsidies that tempt European companies to stay in this country.
And in this context, according to the expert, the measures taken in order to face the price increase will play a key role.
We are in a year of high inflation, loss of purchasing power. In the case of commodity prices, that would explain a little of this rise in prices. There is a perspective in which the climatic events, such as drought in areas where there is abundant rain, are complicating the crops. In addition, the areas where there are war conflicts are affecting other regions. It is the case of at least 2021, when Latin American countries such as Brazil and Argentina were one of the main exporters to Africa, given the cut of supply of wheat from Ukraine.
In addition to internal factors, the external ones will continue to have an impact on the pace of the Argentine economy.
Regarding the outlook, we have to take into account that on the one hand, Argentina, like other countries, is very vulnerable to imports in order to grow and produce. In that sense, we are somewhat in the bottleneck regarding the amount of dollars available for that growth. We were able to overcome an important crisis in the middle of the year with the untimely departure of Minister Martín Guzmán, and the reserves were stabilized and increased little by little. The coming year will depend to a great extent on the accumulation of reserves in order to continue this growth process.
Investment and the implementation of more policies, such as fair prices, will be decisive according to economists.
The extension of fair prices for the whole year 2023 is an important measure because it allows, on the one hand, that wages do not continue to shrink at the same rate as inflation. And this also impacts on consumption, a relevant factor of the aggregate demand that represents approximately 70%. Probably what we are witnessing is a lower growth, but with lower inflation. What I understand is that the economic policy is trying not to stop growing, but at the same time to control the inflationary process.
In addition to these situations, there is the electoral setting, since the presidential elections will be held in Argentina in 2023. Carolina Silvestre, teleSUR, Buenos Aires.
Carolina Silvestre, teleSUR, Buenos Aires.
The number of people killed by the snowstorm that hit the United States rose to 64 on Tuesday, while roads remain blocked and there are obstacles to rescue operations. In the city of Buffalo, New York, authorities report 28 dead, but believe the figure will continue to rise as teams advance search missions. The National Weather Service bulletin reported that being outdoors could cause frostbite within minutes. It also warned that strong winds would pose a potentially deadly risk to travelers, outdoor workers, livestock, and pets. Winter in the U.S. officially began last Wednesday, and forecasters have already indicated that more than 260 million people, about 80% of the population, are expected to see freezing temperatures in the country. Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at the account at teleSUR English, in which you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. In Mexico, the Undersecretary of Health, Hugo López-Gatell, assured on Tuesday at the National Palace that the Cuban Abdala vaccine against COVID-19, which is being applied in the country, is one of the most effective in the world. At the morning press conference held by the Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, the official quoted an article from the prestigious British group The Lancet Discovery Science about the Abdala immunogen, which extols its great virtues. López-Gatell explained that today's vaccines continue to be protective against the virus and its mutations, but stressed that there are fewer ones like the Cuban Abdala with effectiveness over 93%. The official highlighted his government's confidence in the vaccination scheme that includes it. The president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, signed Moscow's decree in response to the cap on Russian oil price imposed by the G7 countries, the European Union and Australia. Early December, these nations agreed to impose a $60 per barrel cap on the price of Russian oil. The Russian government has repeatedly called the Western initiative an anti-market measure that may significantly complicate the situation on the world energy markets. The official document signed on Tuesday states that Russia will not sell oil to countries that have joined the price cap. The decree will enter into force on February 1, 2023 and will remain in force until July 1, 2023. Less than an hour after the publication of the document, oil prices have soared. Thus, Brent crude oil rose to $86 a barrel for the first time since December 5th, according to data from the London Stock Exchange ICE. Russia plans to extend its operations at the International Space Station for several more years, said Sergei Krikalev, Roscosmos Executive Director for Manned Space Programs. Krikalev explained that the U.S., as part of the project, offered to extend the International Space Station flight to all partner countries. Moscow has taken into account the technical feasibility of the Russian segment and has already decided to send the documents to the government for approval of the station's continued operation. Krikalev added that Roscosmos plans to extend its participation until 2028 for the time being and will be guided by the situation thereafter. Serbs put up more roadblocks in northern Kosovo on Tuesday after the Serbian government put its troops near the border on a high level of combat readiness. The new barriers made of heavily loaded trucks were put up overnight in Mitrovica, a northern Kosovo town divided between Kosovo Serbs and ethnic Albanians, who represent the majority population in Kosovo. Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić said he ordered the army's highest state of alert to protect the people in Kosovo and preserve Serbia. Serbs started putting up roadblocks 18 days ago to protest the arrest of a former Kosovo Serb police officer. Kosovo remains a potential flashpoint in the Balkans years after the 1999 Kosovo War that ended with a NATO intervention that pushed Serbian troops out of the former Serbian province. More strikes are on the horizon in the United Kingdom as rail and postal workers, nurses, and other union members are planning new industrial actions throughout the end-of-year holidays and into 2023. The country has faced massive strikes over the past weeks carried out by transport workers along with other service areas employees demanding higher pay. The Royal College of Nursing, which organized nurse strikes last week and on Tuesday announced further industrial action in England on January 18th and 19th. The RCN stated that ministers could avoid additional strikes by agreeing to enter talks about this year's National Health Service pay settlement of 19%. The Spanish government takes actions to contain the onslaught of the economic situation in the European region. On Tuesday, the Spanish government announced the implementation of a series of measures aimed at reducing the impact of the economic crisis generated by the COVID-19 pandemic and aggravated by the armed conflict between Russia and Ukraine. In this sense, the suppression of the value-added tax on basic foodstuffs, the extension of rent and eviction controls, free and discounted transport services, as well as the reduction of the tax on electricity and the insurance of a new check of €200 for people earning less than 27,000 euros per year, among other actions, were ordered the president of the government. Pedro Sanchez also pointed out that the main objective of these measures was to protect the middle and working classes from the rising cost of living. More news coming up after a short break, so don't go away. Welcome back from the south. The Chinese government declared on Tuesday is concerned about the increase in the defense budget of some $51,270 million in the Japanese nation. During a press conference, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin specified that Tokyo exaggerates regional tensions to achieve progress in its military power. The Foreign Ministry also described the actions of Japan as a dangerous trend, which forces countries of the international community to question whether Tokyo continues its peaceful development. Likewise, the Chinese spokesman reiterated Beijing's commitment to the peaceful path while calling the Japanese nation to reflect on its history of being cautious with its words and actions in the military field.
We have noticed relevant reports and expressed concern over the apparent and substantial increase in Japan's defense budget. The Japanese side exaggerates the tension in the region in order to seek a breakthrough in its own military power. This is a dangerous move that has forced its Asian neighbors and the international community to strongly question whether Japan is sincerely committed to defense and adheres to the path of peaceful development. The Japanese side should seriously reflect on its history of aggression and be cautious in its words and deeds in the field of military security, so as not to further lose its credit among its Asian neighbors and in the international community.
Palestinian authorities announced on Tuesday that Israeli occupation forces have killed more than 220 Palestinians during 2022. Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammad Shitayeh pointed out that almost 10,000 Palestinians have been injured by the Israeli army. The official also denounced that Tel Aviv indiscriminately imposed house arrest on almost 600 Palestinian children and adolescents. The Palestinian premier warned that the situation his country is going through is a political battle and that the majority of the countries in the world support the cause of the Palestinian people. Despite Western coercive measures and severe damage to health facilities terrorist war has caused, Syria has shown remarkable progress in the recovery of its health sector during the current year. The expansion and the opening of hospitals, health centers, and pharmaceutical plants is proof of that. Let's see.
Syrian health authorities offer free medical care to all the country's citizens without exception. The blockade causes limitations. However, they continue to do so in the many rehabilitated and rebuilt health facilities with the resources and with the support of friendly countries. One example of that is the opening of the Harasta hospital in Damascus countryside this year. It has 90 beds and the setting of the first stem cell transplant center in the country.
Despite the difficult circumstances of war and blockade that prevent us from importing the necessary medicines, equipment, and medical supplies, we have managed to build an equipped center and other health centers in the country. So we can consider this achievement as a resilient answer.
In parallel, 4 national vaccination campaigns against COVID-19 and numerous immunization days against cholera, polio, and other contagious diseases took place in 2022. Syrian authorities have had to face a lack of medicines, equipment, and medical supplies due to the blockade. They have not been alone, however, since they have received medical assistance from Russia, China, Cuba, and other friendly countries. They have also reactivated the national pharmaceutical plans, which this year covered 90% of a country's medical needs.
The sanctions affect all sectors, the health sector included. Due to the blockade, we are facing great difficulties in securing the necessary resources to fight coronavirus. That is why we demand the immediate elimination of this humane blockade, so that we can fulfill our mission in confronting coronavirus and other diseases. The pandemic also affects young people. That is why I came to get immunized, since I consider that all the youth must get the vaccine because they are the most productive sector and their health and work are both essential for the development of the country.
Thousands of civilians and military personnel, crippled as a result of the terrorist war imposed on Syria, were able to recover their physical and kinetic abilities thanks to the free medical and physiological care they received at state-owned and civil society prosthetic centers. Meanwhile, the national campaign for the early detection of breast, cervical, and prostate cancers continue in the country. Despite the difficult war and blockade situations, the Syrian authorities promised to continue this work in 2023 to guarantee public health.
Hisham News, teleSUR, Damascus, Syria.
We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.